to the regular meeting of the City Council for Monday, August 22nd, 2016. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette.
Yes.
Councilmember Lane.
Here.
Councilmember Ryno is absent. Vice Mayor Kline.
Here.
And Mayor Vierra.
Here. Okay, with that, we will move to the invocation led by Loren and Gregory from the Victory Assembly of God.
Our Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening, Lord. Your word promises wisdom for those who ask, so we pray for wisdom, God, and guidance as we decide the people's business, Lord. Bless these proceedings and let your hand be upon them in your holy name. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have no presentations this evening. Citizens' communications to council on matters not included on the agenda. While the City Council welcomes and encourages participation in City Council meetings, adopted rules allow no more than 5 minutes for expression of non-agenda items. Matters under the jurisdiction of the City Council and not on the posted agenda may be addressed by the general public. However, California law prohibits the City Council from taking action on any matter which is not on the posted agenda unless it is determined to be an emergency by the City Council. Citizens are entitled to address the City Council on any agenda item subject to the 5-minute provision. At this time, I do have, I do have a couple of speaker cards, but both of those are related to items that we have on the agenda, so I'll call you up when we get to those items. In the meantime, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on a non-agenda item? If so, please come forth.
Excuse me, Leonard Shepard. I just have been by the park here a few times, Smyrna Park, and saw that the first tree down, and it was nature, and I could tell by looking at the others, those eucalyptus trees, that they're in bad shape. And the drought has done a lot to our trees, both down here in the valley and up in the mountains. There's a whole lot of what wildland firefighters call golden pines. That's pine trees and cedar trees that have died and have turned brown, and they're a real problem. But our own trees down here are suffering because the water tables have dropped and their roots haven't been able to. And it's a lot, some of it is the fault of ourselves because we plant trees and then we plant grass all around them. And the tree roots are trying to get the water, so we're watering the grass. So instead of going down deep, they start coming back up, and that's what happens to a lot of the eucalyptus that we have planted around this state. So when you go to plant a park, think about maybe not putting grass right up around the trees for you planters. Think about that.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that'd like to speak on a non-agenda item? Okay. With that, we will move on. We have no appointments to boards and commissions this evening. Conflict of interest declaration. Is there anyone on the council that would like to declare a conflict of interest on any of the consent calendar items or public hearing items? Okay. Hearing none, we will move to the consent calendar. All matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion unless otherwise requested by an individual council member or the public for special consideration. Otherwise, recommendation of staff will be accepted and acted upon by roll call vote. This time, is there anyone on the council that would like a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion?
Number 6.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like a consent calendar item pulled for further discussion other than item 6? Okay, with that, I'll bring it back to the council for direction on the other items.
Move for approval of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8 through 11.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette,
Yes.
Councilmember Lane,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline,
Yes.
and Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 401.
Okay. Item number 6, resolution number 2016-097, amending the agreement with Series Youth Baseball to include addendum number 1, the addition of a youth fall league, and authorize the city manager to execute the addendum. Councilmember, Vice Mayor Kline?
Well, staff has done a good job answering the questions I had earlier today, but, I'm just thinking of one here that come to mind. And since we're doing a addendum number 1, my question is this addendum number 1 for a 1-year contract, or is it going to follow the 3-year contract that we currently have with CYB?
Going to follow it.
So it'll be for a 3-year contract. And then the second question is, because I know they're only using the facility Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, when it comes to renting the fields for weekend tournament play, what is the standard allotment? I mean, can I come in there and just book it for like 5 weekends in a row, or do I have to? So I can book it one time, and I can book that thing solid so nobody else can get it. But if I pay my fees up front, and let's say I realized weekend after next I can't fill enough teams, do I get my money and my deposit back? And that means that nobody else gets a chance to use the field, am I correct? Because it takes a while to put together a tournament. Right?
It's a situation we haven't seen yet, though.
Well,
And that- right. But
I
that
understand
doesn't-
there's not a situation you haven't seen yet, but I'm throwing this out because, you're getting into winter play, and you're getting you're getting into fall ball, which, a lot of high schools, a lot of junior highs, different things are doing fall balls. I know my son umpires ball right now, and he's doing, they went to 1 weekend a month right now. So I'm just asking the questions, so I could book it for the 6 weekends in a row, and how much notice do I got to give you to cancel, to get my money back? But there's nothing in writing that they must give us 2-week notice or they forfeit their money? Okay. I know further questions.
Any other questions? Hey, is there any questions from the audience on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for direction.
I move to adopt Resolution 2016-097.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette,
Yes.
Councilmember Lane,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline,
Yes.
and Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 401.
Okay, thank you. This evening, we have no unfinished business. Public hearing. Item number 12, public hearing to consider the following. Number 1, resolution number 2016-014, 104, adopting the mitigated negative declaration preparation for a general plan amendment 16-06 GPA. We need to take these all separately, correct, Tom?
No, you could do.
Okay, then item number 2, resolution number 2016-105, adopting a general plan amendment 16-06 GPA to change the general plan designation of low-density residential, LDR, to medium-density residential, MDR, for 3 properties that total 1.9 plus or minus acres in size at 2800 to 2808 Blaker Road. And then the last item, number 3, ordinance number 2016-1036, adopting a rezone 16-07 RZ to change the zoning designation of single-family residential R1 to planned community 62, PC-62, for 3 properties that total 1.9 plus or minus acres in size at 2800 to 2808 Blaker Road. Mr. Westbrook.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. Thank you, Mayor, specifically. You've given about half the staff report already. So briefly talking about this project. So as you noted, there's a general plan amendment, a rezoning, and a planned community development plan. The planned community development plan is an item that goes before the Planning Commission. They take the final action. However, they only make a recommendation regarding the general plan and the rezoning. That's why we're here this evening. Back in March of 2016, we had a pre-development meeting with the applicant, Daryl Ledbetter, for 20 units on these properties. We told Mr. Ledbetter at that time that if he wanted to pursue a project of that type moving forward, he would need the general plan amendment, the rezone, and the development plan. At the Planning Commission's meeting on July 18th, they considered those three applications. The general plan amendment, as noted in the title, takes the project site from an LDR, low density residential designation, to an MDR. So the map that's on the screen here now, this is the general plan designation. And you can see this little subdivision here, Heavenly Way and McCord Way. Interestingly enough, Mr. Ledbetter built those homes, they're single family homes in the early 2001, 2002 range. He built some more homes along this side here in about 2005. And then this evening, we're talking about properties right along this way. So these three properties that will make up this subdivision. Interesting about that subdivision that Mr. Ledbetter built back in the early 2000s, each of the corner lots have a duplex on them already, and so they met the zoning designation. So there are some duplex units that are kind of within that surrounding subdivision. So the general plan would go from the orange or the kind of the yellow low density to this kind of MDR color on our map. The second phase of this is the zoning. So
By the way, the only thing we're seeing is the overhead.
I apologize.
No problem.
Rookie mistake. So let me go back here. So here's the general plan designation. This yellow here, these are the properties that will be changed from the LDR to the MDR, which I just discussed. Then here is the zoning map. So you can see this yellow area. And then this little subdivision was also built by Mr. Ledbetter in the mid-2000s under the planned community zoning designation. And so that's what we'll be rezoning to. So this R1 would go away and it would be replaced with this PC 62, which would allow the development of the 20 units that the Planning Commission has authorized. So you can see the kind of the surrounding area. There's some single family homes here. Blaker Kinzer Junior High School is just to the west across Blaker Road. This area up here, this is the Whitmore Oaks Senior Housing Complex. So there are some schools, obviously, in the Whitmore complex just across the way, a little bit to the north. So at the Planning Commission meeting, there was a couple items issued. There were some questions regarding emergency access, project parking requirements. Once staff answered those questions, the Planning Commission made a recommendation on the project, the planned community development plan, which has approved the actual units, this picture, and then a recommendation to change the general plan amendment and the rezone by a 4-1 vote. As I mentioned, the Planning Commission approves the development plan. That shows 20 lots. Those are duplex units. There's some guest parking spaces. There's a garage provided for each of the units. There's also parking in front of the garages for each of the units. So the project is sufficiently parked. The density proposed for this project, the medium density designation allows a range from 7 to 12 dwelling units per acre. This one calcs at 10.7 units per acre. So the proposal would provide some needed multifamily development. These lots are kind of unique in the sense of they're long and kind of skinnier. They're held over from subdivisions from years past, and so this is a very good way to develop those lots. As you know, Mr. Ledbetter does have an apartment complex on Central Avenue, the Oakwood Villas, just north of Caswell a bit. He's owned those units for probably almost 10 years. I think they were built in 2006 or 7. So they've been there quite a long time, very well maintained. This project will be the same. So in terms of the public participation, Noticing also went out for the Planning Commission to property owners within 300 feet. Same thing for the City Council meeting. At the Planning Commission meeting, we did have one of a resident speak in support of the project. We didn't have anybody speak against the project. The environmental review for this project was done through a mitigated negative declaration. And following the approval, we would bring back, if the council moves forward, we would bring back at the next meeting a kind of the second reading of the ordinance. And with that, I would be available to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of staff?
Well, I mean, I know we talked about it. You know, there's 1 meter that's going to come off the city's service into the complex. I mean, my concern is with it being a complex like that, with what we went through with somebody else with an apartment complex that comes in here. Do you know if Mr. Ledbetter is going to put individual meters for each unit and take care of it that way? I mean, you know, before the council, we had a gentleman.
I suspect he is, so.
Yeah, I had a chance to speak with Josh Jantz of GDR Engineering as representative for Mr. Ledbetter, and he confirms that's the preference, is that each of the units will have their own water meter, so therefore they'll have their own water, sewer, and garbage bill.
And then my second concern was, you know, I would like to, you know, when I was reading it and it was talking about the thing from Burralotti, I mean, I would like to see individual totes.
There are individual toters
Okay.
for this project.
So I'm fine with the project.
Okay, with that, I will open it up for the public to speak. I do have one request so far. I think it is from Barbara Hall. If you want to come up to the podium and address the council.
Okay, I'm Barbara Hall, and I'm a 30-year resident here in Ceres. I live at 2785 McCord Way, which is one of the properties that backs up to this proposed 20-unit plan. And I have been a resident in this property since these homes were built back in 2000, 2002, in that time frame. And I'm extremely strongly opposed to the proposal for building this 20-unit plan and for the change in zoning. If the zoning changes from low density to medium density, there are the units that Ledbetter wants to build, but it opens up the rest of that area for additional units of medium density. I've talked to several of my neighbors who are also in the same thinking that I am, also very strongly opposed to this proposition. And these are the issues that were brought up. This is the first time I've heard about this. I got a notice in the mail, as did some of my other neighbors. Some of them said they never got this notice. And our concerns are that, number one, once these properties, these 20 units become built, or once the building starts, our property values will almost certainly decrease. That's our biggest concern. But in addition to that, we feel like those of us who back up to Blaker Road or to this property site, we feel there may be an intrusion of privacy, for one thing, possible home security jeopardized. There will be a possible increase in noise and traffic. And additionally, for a lot of the families in this neighborhood, English is not the primary language. And we are consequently concerned that some of them don't even speak English. So if they got this notice, there hasn't been what we would consider sufficient notice or adequate notice to all of the homeowners in this area. But I basically wanted to make sure I voiced my opinion, and I have signatures from several neighbors who work in the Bay Area or work late and just could not make it here to the council meeting today.
Okay, do you want to hand those to the clerk, please?
Cheers.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on this item? Okay, I'll bring it back to the council for discussion, direction. Any comments?
You know, some of the things, and again, I've seen the property that Mr. Ledbetter owns over there on Caswell, and I'm pretty familiar with the standards that he holds quite quite high for those residents that live there. You know, I think this is something that Ceres needs, and I understand your concerns, absolutely. But at the same time, too, I'd rather see something like this occur than something else go in there. And I don't know what those things could be, but I totally believe that this is going to be a win-win, so.
Okay, yeah, I too have had a chance to see some of the product that Mr. Ledbetter has done on a very similar project. I would normally agree with Mrs. Hall 100% that I would have some concern with putting something in, but I can tell you that Mr. Ledbetter, in my opinion, has been a model landlord in what I've seen. In fact, I've heard anecdotal stories that some of the tenants, if they didn't put their garbage waste wheeler back after 2 days or being told twice, then they were evicted. And I wish we had more regular residents that would take to that standard more. You know, from what I've seen in the past, he builds a very quality product, and I would be surprised if you wouldn't see an increase to your property values, not a decrease. I know he's done other things in the neighborhood. I am not aware of any issues that any of the residents have had with the other product that's been there. So I'm not too concerned that there'll be too many issues with it. A question that I wanted to address, Tom, was Ms. Hall made a comment about, well, this could open up the door for other MDR, but all the other parcels, I mean, somebody would have to assemble 4 or 5 homes, wouldn't they, to be able to do that?
Correct. It's really not likely. There's obviously for the project site, what's being changed in the MDR is just for the project site, so it doesn't affect any other lots that wouldn't be developed.
So someone would have to go through the whole hearing process again.
Correct.
After they acquired, from what I could see on the map, at least 4 to 5 residential units just to have enough acreage to put something together like this.
This is the only lot that's kind of large enough to see any type of development. The owner does have a single-family home there, and I want to say within the last 6 to 7 years has built a pretty extensive shop in the back of that. So it's not likely that that property would develop. So really, the parcels in question that Mr. Ledbetter owns is really the only MDR that can happen in this area, right behind the McCord and Heavenly Way.
Okay. Okay. Vice Mayor Kline?
Well, you know, another question, because this is sort of a modified complex. What kind of fencing would go around the complex?
6-foot block wall, and that's what.
So it's going to have a brick retaining wall all the way around it?
It's going to have a 6-foot block wall, so it's not a retaining wall. It'll be a 6-foot wall, which is obviously more durable than a wood fence. So that'll be put up at Mr. Ledbetter's expense.
Well, you know, in looking at it, again, I definitely hear Mrs. Hall's concerns, and I could feel for that. I think the project is in character with some of the other, I know the complex to the north, I don't know what it's called on the opposite side of the street.
Whitmore Oaks.
To me, that looks like a very nice establishment when I drop by and look at it. And so, you know, again, if I was dealing with someone that had no experience in the city, I would have the very same concerns that you would, but I've seen a number of instances where this builder, Mr. Ledbetter, has exceeded what I would have expected from someone, and so I don't think you're going to have the same concerns with the development that he has versus someone else. Now, I guess someone could always, he could always do a 180, but I'm not expecting that from him. Before I do, is there any other comments? Okay, at this point, I normally don't do this, but I'll open it up if you want to come back up and make a statement.
One of the things that, when we bought these homes on McCord and on Heavenly Way, we bought them with knowing that these are single-family unit homes. And with the understanding, or at least, you know, being convinced that this neighborhood would remain single-family unit dwellings. And again, if you change the zoning There may be other properties that are held right now by homeowners, but if they sell or move or something, again, because there's a lot of space back there, like you're talking about, there's that one residence that has like the shop and everything back there. But that homeowners, I don't know them personally, but they've been there for a while. They could move, things change. And if that happened, that property's opened up again, and I'm sure no one would hesitate to put another apartment building back there. And I know you mentioned the properties over on Caswell. In my opinion, I've seen these properties, they are very nice, but it's a different type of neighborhood. Okay, so just wanted to stress that. Okay, I'm losing sleep over this. This is directly behind my house, and again, my neighbors. It's a nightmare. It sounds like a big nightmare.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other comments or direction?
We want to take these all together?
Okay.
So item 12 and then the resolutions and,
Since they've all been read, you could just move the staff recommendation for the 3 items.
okay, move on item 12, the staff recommendations for the 3 items.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette,
Yes.
Councilmember Lane,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline,
Yes.
and Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 401.
Thank you. We'll move to item number 13, new business. Set a public hearing for September 12th, 2016 to consider a revision of the city's public transit system routes, schedules, fares, and rider eligibility, and authorizing the Engineering Services Department to implement the revisions in December 2016. Mr. Jordan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tonight, we're just setting the public hearing for the next meeting. We'll have a full presentation for you with details at that time, but we do have staff here in case there was any public questions that we could handle at this time.
Okay. At this time, I did get one speaker card related to the transit. So if you want to come up and ask a question or two, we probably won't delve too much into it tonight because we needed to set the public hearing first. But there is, and I apologize if I get it wrong, is it Dieta Purdue? Did I get it right? Great.
Yes, hello, my name's Dieta Purdue. I live at 1640 Richland Avenue in Ceres, and I can understand both sides of the bus issue, okay? I understand that the fares are not meeting the fare box is not meeting the fares standard that you have to have for the state. But you got to understand that for us, this bus is very important, especially like for me, because I don't drive. So the only way I can get around and especially go to the doctor and take him to the vet is by the bus, because the only one that lives with me is my sister, and she has to work, unfortunately. And so you can't depend on her because she works from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So the time she gets home, all the doctor's offices are closed. I'm not talking about emergencies. I'm talking about normal for his vaccinations, et cetera. And for myself, I go to Ceres Medical. It's no longer going to come on my side of Richland. And they said they're even going to move the stop from IHOP down in front of that Mexican restaurant. Excuse me, because I have to say it that way because I can't say the name of it. And so that puts me crossing Hatch Road walking, and I don't know if anybody else in the city council has tried to cross Hatch Road from Richland to the other side of Richland. If you have, you'll know there's a lot of people do not stop for right-hand turns or stop when the light is red and you have the green light, especially in front of the Home Depot signals, and Hatch and Herndon. And so you're putting a lot of people where they can't go where they normally go.
Okay.
Because the bus isn't even going to go there. And every time you guys send that out, you never say where the buses are going to stop at anymore. You just have the lines where it's going to go here and go there, but you don't have where it's going to stop at. So we don't even know where it's going to stop.
Okay. Yeah, just as a reminder, all we're doing tonight is setting the date to hear the item. So we'll definitely address all the questions that you have. But I hear your concerns, and I'll make sure that we try to work with staff to see what we can do.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
So just make sure, and you are available September 12th?
I hope so.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, do we need to take a motion to accept that
Yes, to set the hearing.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can we have the roll call, please?
Councilmember Durossette,
Yes.
Councilmember Lane,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Kline,
Yes.
and Mayor Vierra.
Yes.
Motion passes 401.
Okay, thank you. Next, we will move on to council member referrals. Is there anyone on the council that would like an item referred to a future agenda? Okay. Reports. At this time, I have nothing to report. Vice Mayor Kline?
Nothing.
Councilmember Lane?
Nothing.
Councilmember Durossette?
Nothing.
Okay, Ms. Dean? Tom?
Nothing to report, Mayor.
Mr. Wells?
Just a couple quick items. First one, just a reminder, the Smoke on the River activities this Saturday out at the River Oaks Golf Course. We'll be on the bottom bluff there. Get your tickets and join us out there for a good afternoon, a barbecue, and some cold beverages. Secondly, before our next meeting will be Labor Day, so just a reminder, on September 5th will be a city holiday. And lastly, as Mr. Shepherd indicated, the drought has taken a toll on a number of trees within our city and around the valley as well. Just a note that we did have to remove 2 trees this past Friday from Whitmore Park. The arborist did come review both of those trees and determine that they were in some pretty bad condition and in a very hazardous location, so those trees were removed per the direction of an arborist. So just giving the council and any of the community that update for those 2 trees. That's it.
Still no update on the ranch?
Still no decision. Checking daily on the appellate court docket.
I'm sure we'll be the first to know.
You will be the first to know.
Thank you. Mr. Westbrook?
Just to follow up on Toby's reminder about the Smoke on the River, kind of involved with that, helping with the chamber as a liaison from the city. There's going to be ribs, chicken, and I believe some pork shoulder, 400 racks of ribs. I think they're on tap to smoke. The event starts at 11 in the morning, but the tastings are really going to kind of start at around 2 o'clock. And so it's going to be a great event. Looking forward to first year at the golf course. And I believe that the chamber president told me they have 22 competitors as of last Thursday.
Okay, great. Oh, and before I forget, I know Wednesday night, I believe, at Diamond Bar Arena, there is the Series High and Central Valley
That is correct.
Imperial Nights fundraiser. So
That is correct.
anyone who wants tickets, I'm sure we can get them for you, or Mr. Parsons can. Mr. Jordan? Mr. Smith? Ms. Ferris? Mr. Scola?
Just want to remind the community about tomorrow's friendly competition between department, blood drive this year, for the blood bank.
Yeah, 1 to 7 here in the community center.
Who won last year? Oh. That's why you're keeping quiet, huh?
Well, the department that put it on won, so at least that's the story that I heard.
Okay.
I put a half vote for
It's
each
no
side.
protest, though.
Yeah, no protest vote.
Okay. Lastly, Supervisor DeMartini. Okay. With that, we will go ahead and adjourn to our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be on Monday, September 12th at 6 p.m. Thank you.